So let's welcome Julia to the stage.
The best way to describe the Venice Biennale is as the Art Olympics. Nations present their best and freshest exponent of contemporary art to the rest of the world. Last year, Creative New Zealand sent 2 artists, Judy Miller and Frances Hugh Pritchard. Thinking practically, Venice is the last place you'd want to hold such an ambitious event. The buildings are falling apart, it's heaving under the weight of tourism, and it's surrounded by water. Here are Judy Miller's canvases arriving by boat, fortunately without a glitch. However, not everything escapes the water. This work started sinking en route to its site. It got a lot of suspiciously well-managed publicity, and I'm not the only one who thinks it might have been a stunt, perhaps a comment on the American housing markets. Aqua Alta is the high tidal water that temporarily floods Venice and is a constant pain for locals. Here's 2 young Venetians who visited the exhibition wearing gumboots, a strange look in summer with their Italo prep get-up. But for all the madness, Venice is a stunning backdrop for contemporary art. The contrast of the very ancient against the very latest is an exciting change from white cube galleries. Judy Miller's abstract canvases were propped up casually in a classical church built in 1780. Frances Hugh Pritchard's delicate figures and glass-blown lamps were installed in the 3 front rooms of a lavish palazzo, combining the futuristic and the antique. The first few days were frenetic and exciting as New Zealand officially launched the 2 exhibitions. One of our best kapa haka groups performed right on the Grand Canal, and the Venetians lapped it up. In Venice, advertising space is limited, even prohibited. New Zealand had to be smart with its marketing, as there is lots of competition. These giveaway eco bags acted as our posters and walked all across Venice, with reports of sightings in Paris and London too. Which brings me to getting around, or not. Venice is a maze, and don't make the mistake of following this official Biennale map, which is always notoriously inaccurate. You'd think they'd differentiate between land and water. Think again. The Giardini is a big park with 100 or so permanent national pavilions, like a Disneyland for contemporary art, with its own special geography. For example, Russia is right next to Brazil, which is behind Hungary. Truly art tourism. Some are even embarrassing, like Germany's. Why? Well, it was built in 1935 under the Nazis, and it's an uncompromising, severely neoclassical temple to the Third Reich. Thankfully, artist Liam Gillett camped it up with some stripy butcher's curtains. The Danish pavilion was my favourite. The curators converted it into a fantasy modernist home straight out of Wallpaper magazine. When you walk into it, you entered a crime scene, entering the home of an erotic novelist whose dead body is lying in the pool. On our way out, the gates close at 6 p.m. We saw someone removing the model cadaver on a stretcher and giving it a clean. Surely they could have waited until 6:15 to keep the mystery intact, but hey, it was another great photo op. Now, the Biennale provokes a subversive attitude from many artists. See this unassuming pile of junk metal in the crawl space of a decaying palazzo? If anyone can't quite see the shadow, the work's title is Metal Fucking Rats. Iceland was New Zealand's neighbouring pavilion, where a cliched artist with a palette and easel painted canvases of his Speedo-clad model for the whole 6 months of the Biennale. The end result, about 500 half-baked portraits of a guy in Speedos. There was one giant billboard, which was part of the Ukrainian exhibition. It was an ad declaring world boxing champ Vladimir Klitschko as the Ukrainian curator. I didn't think anything of it until my boyfriend said it was like Matthew Ridge doing the same for us. Who's heard of the Sartorialist blog? Yep, it's a blog of a guy who travels the world taking photos of well-dressed people. Scott Schumann happened to give a lecture in Venice and said it was one of his happiest hunting grounds for well-turned-out people and white pants. Not all the visitors were humans. I had to get used to the canine variety too. Small, manageable, but shivering little chihuahuas and poodles. As long as they were in arms or on a leash, all was well. Another in the exhibit was these postcards, which were free. But you can't surf in Venice, and isn't that the London Bridge? They're just generic stock images. This plays upon preconceptions of a place and the apathy of tourists who just want something to send back home. If you get sick of looking at art, and you do, there are less desperate measures than this. You can always go and eat delicious food, and you can also take photographs of other tourists taking photos of tourists. And I would like to finish by saying you've all got to get over to Te Papa, where the New Zealand at Venice exhibitions are on right at the moment. Very different location, but